all delighted to be here. Mo, this morning you took everyone for a run down the beach, and I want to know, how painful was it for you to run that slowly?
Not at all. As I said, now I'm retired from a professional point of view, but it was nice to have so many people running and start off with the day, easy jog, talking to each other, and feel good about yourself.
You didn't drop a 4-minute mile in the middle of that, did you?
I don't think I could, even if I tried.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Well, I want to start with you, Mo, and I was curious, if you had never run, if you had, been a kind of indifferent soccer player and then gone on with your life, how would you be different?
Honestly, I ask myself that question all the time. As a young boy who's growing up in the UK, I thought I was the best football player. And it was only my teacher who said to me, no, join the running club. And once I joined the running club, it was there from that moment then, where I felt like welcome, enjoyed it. And if it wasn't for him, honestly, I wouldn't even be in the sport. Because when I joined that running club, it was a way of me being free and just having a laugh and enjoying myself.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of sort of psychologically, how has it changed the way your running experience, changed the way you deal with stress, or changed the way you look at opportunity, or change discipline? Or talk a little bit about that transformation that's happened.
Yeah, running does teach you a lot of things, skills that you don't learn in actual school, to be disciplined, to work hard, to believe in, and learn from your mistakes. And often, as I said, it's not an easy thing, but once you find a recipe, you keep that going, and you keep on going and grafting. And again, I look at it from different view, from my own story. A boy who's arriving in the UK, not speaking a word of English, who's, child trafficked into the UK, and then finding that place where I felt love, connect, and then going on, becoming who I become. It's amazing.
Yeah. Lena, you're involved with Strava, and I want you to talk a little bit about how running has been reimagined by Strava and other. There's a whole kind of universe. When I say that, I'm very old, much older than all of you guys. And when I was growing up, there was that famous book, The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner. Running was supposed to be this, distance running was a solitary thing. I remember I was obsessed with a Tanzanian middle-distance runner called Filbert Bayi. And Filbert would always hold forth philosophically about how running was something you did by yourself. And now we're reimagining running as a community, being part of a community and something that you do in groups and something that you bring. And Strava's been a big part of that. And could you reflect a little bit about that transformation? It's a huge transformation in how we think of this particular sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that do not know Strava, which I hope there are very few in the audience, we are the world's largest community of active people. So many people come to Strava to track their activities, but also connect with like-minded people like Malcolm. And I think your point there around running, for instance, being by nature a solitary activity. Last year, we saw a tremendous growth, though, in people saying that they're joining running groups to find connection, right? So there is a 60% growth year on year in Strava users joining run clubs. But still, running will still also be solitary. Myself being a good example, like I'm a working mom, I have a stressful life. I try and get out early in the morning before the kids wake up. I always fail. I still haven't been able to do the 4 a.m. starts, which some people are capable of. And what's unique is that once I get back in, I have the sense of deep achievement and feel good, right? And I upload to Strava, and my community, my friends, my family, they will send me virtual kudo thumbs, and they will send a positive comment and say, yeah, well done. And that makes me much more likely to go back out and do that activity again, right? And on the flip side, those people might be doing the same, right? So running will still be solitary to some extent, but Strava creates connective tissue.
Yeah. It's the only, I'm a huge Strava user, have been for years, and the one thing that's always been remarkable to me was it's the only social media platform where everyone is always nice. In fact, only once someone once left a comment after one of my runs, which was in reference to something I'd written, saying how they didn't like it. And I remember, first of all, I was so stunned that like, wait, this is Strava. You're not supposed to, if you want to say that, go on Twitter. That's what Twitter's for. This is a place for supporting each other. But anyway, yeah. Michelle, talk a little bit about, you've been involved with Movember, and it's part of this reimagining about what's possible through running. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for that program and what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. And to riff from what Lena said, hopefully for those few of you that don't know Movember, we are the largest men's health charity in the world. We operate in over 20 countries around the world, and we are the people who are largely responsible for those beautiful moustaches you see on guys through the month formerly known as November. And but for those who can't or don't want to grow a mo, we've got another offer which is called Move for Movember, and many people then choose across the month to run either 60 kilometres or 60 miles, and that's in honour of the tragic statistic that there is a guy who takes his life once every minute globally. So we mobilise a whole bunch of people around this whole idea of movement in support of men's health, but also we note that sparks millions of conversations, it drives awareness of men's health, and it also creates that really strong link between physical and mental health.
Yeah. We'll go back to you, Mo, and talk a little bit about what's very interesting about the position you're in is you were at one point the greatest distance runner in the world. And now you're involved in running at a sort of grassroots level.
Yeah.
What's the tension between elite running and mass participation running? Is there a tension? Are they natural partners? Or does watching someone like you win a gold medal on the track, if I'm a journeyman runner who runs 9-minute miles, does that inspire me or does that intimidate me?
Honestly, as I said, it's a great question. I think it's how we use it and what we do with it. And for me, I want to be able to, I've had amazing things throughout my career. Represent your country, winning medals. But it's important to find the next part of your life. And for me, if it wasn't for the community, for the people who helped me out in my life, from the club system, and helped me recognize my talent, I won't be here. But also for me, I want to be able to give back to the younger generation, for the people who watch me over the years and see themselves like, oh, Mo's done just enough. But I took that journey, and we all have to start off somewhere. And for me, if I can encourage the next generation, give back the skills, the tools that I've learned throughout my career, that's what I like to do. But also, I think running is something that I enjoy. My kids run, and we run, and we like to be active, but also just making it fun.
How good are your kids?
It's no pressure, right? Big shoe to fill in.
Come on.
Honestly, my kids are, as a parent, who's a parent? And as a parent, one thing you learn, you always will learning. You never stop learning. But the key things as a parent is try and just support your kids in the right way. And often, for me, I've had an amazing career. I just want my kids to be happy, to be active, and to be kids and grow up, to have the skills that I've learned throughout my career. And in terms of sports, one of them is into running, high jump, better running. One of them is football. The other one's like rowing. But as a parent, I try not to put too much pressure on them. I just let them be kids and enjoy it.
Momo,
but with Strava, with everything happening, of course they're aware of.
I took my 2-year-old to the track, and she, for the first time, and she's only been walking for a couple months, and she ran the turn in her lane hard, and then jogged the straight. And I was like, this is the daughter I've always wanted. It was the happiest moment of my entire life.
Do you need the coach?
That's right. Yeah. And also, I was very, very concerned about whether she was 4-foot striking or not. I was like, let's make sure the running form is there.
Yeah.
I might be a bad example in this. Lena, talk to me about, so Strava has done this thing, and I was talking to you backstage about the number of people who are in awe that I speak to in the world of any number of brands who are in awe of what Strava has created, this extraordinary community. Where do you take that? Where is Strava going to be 5 years from now? And what are the kinds of larger goals the company has for taking this community and making something more with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we're going to continue seeing rapid growth. So we're currently growing 50% year on year, or more than 50%.
50% year to year.
Yes,
my
yes.
goodness.
And what I'm particularly excited about is what is going to happen when we can activate the middle classes in, for instance, Asia Pacific. So there's a growing middle class out there now that has, up until now, not really spent a lot of time running. Like, that's not really a thing, or hasn't really been a thing in some of these countries. That's changing. So we're seeing a lot of growth out there. And then from a Strava product development perspective, we have very recently acquired a company called Runner. So together with Runner, we're hoping to really lean into the coaching space, like professional coaching, and become a place that isn't just for the people that run the 5-minute mile like yourself, Malcolm. We're really going into the masses. So the average pace on Strava today is actually 6 minutes, 30 seconds per kilometer. I'm European, so I will use kilometer, but it's 6 minutes, 30 seconds. So it's growth into those people that are less like elite and more just running.
First of all, it just occurred to me, I love this. You guys have crunched the numbers. There are 1 billion data points on Strava or more. So you've actually crunched the numbers on what the average pace of every Strava run is?
Yes, we did. Also, I would correct that. It's not the average, because that would be an inaccurate way of calculating it. It's the median.
Oh, the median.
The median speed is 6 minutes, 30 seconds per kilometer. So I think everyone here could, draw a sigh of relief. You're actually really good.
Mo is throwing off the median a little bit.
Not these days.
Did you ever... I'll come back to you. I want to go back to Mo for a second. Just as a random... When did you start You post all your stuff on Strava.
Yeah.
Did you do it when you were an elite athlete? When you were actually competing?
I didn't do it when I was an elite athlete, because often I didn't want my opposition to get hold of that information and use it against me. And now, we were talking about how I race, and there's a lot of stuff that I can talk about it, where at the time you couldn't talk about it. But also I kept it under my, as I say, profile and stuff. And you look back how many miles you did a week, all of it.
Yeah. Would you ever go back and private, like make your training data from 10 years ago public, so we can all...
I haven't thought that far ahead, but honestly, it's something that, I'm inspired to learn and be able to give back to, teach people, educate them. Why do we run? How do we recover? So later on down the line, I'm for sure it's something that I would like to be, have put more stuff out there, because I believe, we can achieve a lot of things. And now what we have, technology, data, there's so much we could do.
Yeah. Michelle, can you talk a little bit about, a lot of what you're involved with is trying to use running as a means of dealing with larger problems, of getting people to understand that it's much more than simply a standalone physical activity, all those kinds of things. Where would you like to be 5 years from now? And how would you, if I have my daughter's 4, when my daughter's 10, how would you like her to conceive of running?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we work right across sports, and I guess what we're trying to do, with running or through community sports. So, for example, we work with sporting leagues all around the world, and we have a program called Movember Ahead of the Game, which is an evidence-based mental fitness thing, and we focus on basically, community athletes between 12 and 18 to really say, okay, teach the concept of mental fitness, but also how to spot the signs in others and provide informal help. So, whether it's running and you've got a connection through something like Strava or, a community run club, or whether it's through community sport, what we're trying to do is meet young people where they are. And also, I think there's a lot of conversation out there at the moment is how do we get kids off their devices and how do we get them into physical activity? And I think, there has to be a balance there, because you also have to meet young people where they are, and young people are inevitably going to be digital natives. But we need to recognise that there are actually points of positive connection in the digital world, and how do we connect there? But then also, how do we make sure that people are having those in real life connections? And there's a lot, I think, in a kind of a post-adolescence world. Lots of people are kind of in moral panic world at the moment around social media and thinking about how can they get their kids out into sport. And certainly we encourage that, but also how can we recognise what they're trying to do online as points of connection, and think about positive methods of healthy connection there too.
Yeah. To what have we learned about from the kind of Strava, from the Strava experience and the information that you've gathered? Have we learned anything useful about what the barriers to running participation are? Do we have a good sense of that?
Motivation.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are a lot of barriers, but when we've been looking at what is holding people back, many times it is that motivation of getting out the door, right? When it's rainy. We actually did a survey where people who have pets, 76% say that those pets help them get out the door. It's a great way if you can't find the motivation for running. But I think also there are barriers, like I think men cited household chores as one of the barriers for going out there and being active. Women tend to cite safety. Mm-hmm. So there are many of them. I think one that Strava is particularly well positioned to help people with right now is the motivational aspect. The example I gave earlier of myself uploading a run and then getting that immediate amplification of the feel-good vibes. And also the sponsored challenges that we activate and which Movember successfully used as part of the Movember Run 60 Kilometers initiative. So the sponsored challenges is actually a way for brands to show up, not just advertising at people, but actually being a force for good, trying to motivate people to go out and log another run, another walk, another hike, whatever it could be.
Yeah, yeah. Can you mentioned a little bit about how there were differences between men and women in the kind of obstacles. And I'm wondering whether all of you can reflect a little bit more about the question of how gender affects someone's willingness to participate in an activity like running. What are the differences that might be relevant here? Mo, any of you can go.
No, for sure. I think for us, as I said, we can generally talk about this because it's something that does exist. For us as a men, we come across, man, you've got to be tough, you've got to be strong, and sometimes we find it hard to talk about our problem. And I think if we don't talk about it, then how, we reach there. And for us, from Movember, and again, the campaign is about being able to encourage others to, let's go make a friend. Let's go and chat. What's going on? And also for me, I'm a big believer, being able to get back, even with my own channel. As I said, when I started a called Run with Mo series on my YouTube channel, and that really is trying to be able to go, when I'm a celebrity, I'm somebody. But often celebrities always got their back up, and they're like, I can't have a conversation with this person. I cannot do this. And then create somewhere that we can talk about normal things. And again, it comes down to that conversation. If we don't build that community, that aspect of that side, it's hard, and I think it's going to get even harder and harder. So we have to be creative. We have to go to the brands. We have to go, listen, let's get the community involved. Let's get people involved, and then start the journey. And I think once we roll that out, then I think there'll be more.
Yeah. Or Michelle, you have thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think we focus on men and men's health, and a lot of things that we see, whether that's kind of participation in physical health or mental health as well, is that ill health or perhaps a lack of action in health is held in place by a few different things. Obviously, it's systems, behaviours, and norms. And in terms of kind of the mental health side, what we've noted, and this is well researched by others as well, is that men tend to they're less likely to go to the doctor. In the case of if they're very into physical fitness and they are in certain kind of, communities, they're more likely to train when they've got an injury. And also in terms of, talking, it's more that men will talk shoulder to shoulder. So it's very interesting about using sport, whether it's a run club or something like that. Women will talk face to face and talk about their problems. Men are shoulder to shoulder. So how can you create environments where you can create, healthy environments in which people feel empowered to talk or give support?
Mm-hmm.
I find this topic really interesting in this day and age. I find social networks tend to increase this toxic male or masculinity that we're seeing today. It kind of has the tendency of drive polarization. And what is unique with Strava in comparison to social networks is that the atomic unit is the activity. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's very hard to insert politics into your 5K morning run.
Yeah.
The core is not content, not pictures, not video, not speech. It's sweat. It's going out there and doing something. And the reality is that we don't all do PRs or marathons or Everest summit attempts every day. On Thursday, I will go out for a run, but it will be very slow and sweaty. And the point I'm making here is that on Strava is just by nature very unfiltered and hard to curate. So it creates an environment that is positive, that is like meeting, showing up the way you are, and hopefully also allowing men to just be the way they are, not feeling that they have to be out there and smash a super fast 10K every day.
Yeah. We have time for one last question, which I thought I would take this opportunity to give my most controversial, least popular running take. Ready? I want you guys to respond to this. The number one thing that's holding back running is marathons. I'm so anti-marathon. The problem is, not for you, Mo. The problem is we've created this culture that says if you want to be a runner, the thing you should be shooting towards is a marathon. The most ridiculously painful, endless, injury-provoking. And so what people do is they get obsessed, they train for the marathon, it's exhausting, they're wiped out, and they stop running. Instead, we should be saying, no. The modal goal for the runner should be a really lovely run in the park on a Sunday morning. That's 5K with your friends, and you feel lovely and refreshed at the end, and you didn't blow out your knee. Yeah. If the marathon didn't exist, we would never have invented it. There's no logic for it. It's some random guy in Greece 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, happened to run 26 miles. If we learned that the original runner in the Olympics ran 5K, we would be so much better off as a society. Please respond.
I'll respond to that. Honestly, as I said, from a track runner to go into the marathon, it's different preparation. And I believe that, if you do the right training, prepare your body, you can enjoy it. And often, as I said, it's something that everyone's bucket list to compete in a marathon. But from my side of it, it's hard work. But if you prepare yourself, did the right training, I think you can. It's possible to run and with a smile.
It's really raising the bar high, though, for people who are.
But I think it's been realistic, as I said, in that information we have with all the stuff we're talking about now. I think if you go in with the right plan and prepare yourself, you can come off it. And I've seen so many people go, never again. I've seen so many people again, that was beautiful. I want to do another one. And I think it's how we use it.
Yeah.
And what you do yourself without putting too much pressure on yourself.
Has there ever been a moment when you were in mid-marathon where you said never again?
Yeah. 2014, I knew from that moment, I was like, it's going to be a hard day. But I didn't want to give up. I kept going and kept pushing. And then I learned from there going again. Not every marathon you go into it feeling great, but it's how you come off the line.
Yeah. Lena, indulge in the hypothetical. The marathon doesn't exist. Are we better off?
I think we probably would be. Sorry, Mo.
Yes.
Sorry, Mo.
I have a convert to my anti-marathon stance.
Yeah. To be honest, I've never run a marathon.
Nor
For the
have I.
very reason you pointed out, it's a distance that will get you injured unless you're Mo. Going back to my medians, the median distance that people run on Strava is not a marathon. It is 6 kilometers. And the average duration of an activity, which then factors in cycling, right, which tend to take longer, is 50 minutes. Only Mo, maybe not even Mo, can do a marathon in 50 minutes. So I'm a proponent for the half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks.
Tell me, since we're talking about Strava, what's the cyclist versus running breakdown on Strava?
So we come from a cycling background, but today we have by far more activities which are run. And most of the activities on Strava, run is the most uploaded activity today on Strava. Most of our users are some form of runner. Like they may ride, but they will also run on occasion. And it is the fastest growing activity type, especially amongst Gen Z, who are joining Strava.
Yeah. The cyclists are so annoying.
It's hard, and you need to have a bike, and, you know, I love it.
All they do is talk about their technology. It's like they can just go on and on and on and on about their titanium something or other. It's like, I thought we were engaging in a sport here, not you know, a manufacturing exercise. Michelle, do you want to respond to my anti-marathon hypothetical?
Well, I can confess, probably unsurprisingly, that I've also never run a marathon, although I did do a half many years ago. Okay, so I've got 2 points of view here. One is, you know, for the 6 million community members and most supporters we've got out there, I would say the massive majority of them can't do a marathon, and I'm just stoked if they put one foot in front of the other and supported men's health. So generally I agree with you, but I've also got to call out, there are people who do some crazy shit in support of us, including run back-to-back marathons. We've got this thing in Australia called the Point to Pinnacle, which is in Tasmania, which is a half a marathon straight up a mountain. So that's one of our iconic events. So I'm straddling the fence here, Malcolm.
One last comment I'll make. We're down to our last minute. I'm a big proponent of the idea that this rethinking that you're talking. We've all been talking here about reimagining what running means in the 21st century, and what I would hope for all of us is that we take this crusade to the earliest possible stage. We need to be talking to kids in middle school about the importance of learning and adapting an activity that they can do their entire lives. And that's the crucial. The thing about running is you can run forever. You can't play football forever or basketball forever, which you really can, or ski. You know, you really can run forever, and that's an incredibly important part of why the running experience is so essential. But anyway, I'm enormously thrilled to have done this with all of you. Mo, once again, I've always been your biggest fan.
But you've seen me train at my highest point, so
I did. I saw Mo train right before the London Olympics. Was that London Olympics?
London.
Yeah, with Galen Rupp and Dathan Ritzenheim.
Yeah.
And the future. Matt Sensuous.
Yeah, Matt Central. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So,
Well, thank you all so much, guys. This has been a real pleasure.
take care. Thank you.